Okay, so I watched The Creator, and I gotta say, this movie was visually fantastic. The CGI, as well as a lot of the vehicles, the robots, a lot of the stuff that they had going on, even the concept of like a futuristic setting, fantastic. Um, I'm also wondering if this is something that is was this an original work or was this based off of a bande dessinée? It felt like it was based off of a bande dessinée based on the story, but I'm gonna get into that later. But I wonder. But again, like having it be a futuristic setting that it did, in some places it worked very well. In other places, it was like, ooh, why would you have this if we got this advanced technology? It was weird, but visually was a fine movie. You know, visually was fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. Hard press are you to see any of like the bad CGI shit that you get from like these big budget blockbuster movies. And I want to be like one of those many fucking reviewers out there that exist that essentially are just constantly shitting on like Disney and whatnot, and basically everything is good if it's not from them. Uh, no, like looking at the budget for this movie and then at the graphic fidelity that this movie had, great work, fantastic. Like you guys did a phenomenal job. A lot of stuff that you did was really well done. But going past that, this movie was ridiculous. Not necessarily boring, more so very predictable. And they gave you absolutely no kind of consequence within the duality of what it was that they were preaching. You know, it just they gave you this bare bones story of AI existing, and then for whatever reason something goes wrong, and then essentially people want to go against the idea of artificial intelligence, which for whatever reason just generally went into the realm of like these robots are all artificially and like have AI, yet they're not able to upload or download their consciousness into other beings. They don't really connect on like on a different network. They don't have a hive mind thing. Hell, it even begins with the opening text that essentially the AI all think of a person called Nirmata as a god. Yet, you know, again, they don't have like a central hub system or something like that that they would go to or they would use to ensure that they'll still be around to live and help out humanity or whatever. Nah, like even in accounting for today's technology, it seems weird that they don't have that accessibility. It's certain basic shit that essentially Terminator did that, and then like when you equate like what Terminator did with their AI going rampant and going crazy, and then you equate that to modern technology, those things kind of don't match up when you have certain stuff that took place within this movie. So things like the equipment that they were using, the guns that they were using, and then it's like you look at the weaponry that these people have, and it's like, why the fuck? It just seems like everyone has laser guns, like they're from GI Joe or something. Whereas like you're trapped in the '80s, but you have laser guns, so that just makes it even weirder. But thus the one of the many issues that this movie had, and so it just kind of takes you out of that sense of feeling that okay, I'm supposed to believe this is a futuristic world or like a big old not utopia, but like just uh, a way in which technology would advance and it would actually make sense. Which brings me to why I thought that it was a bande dessinée, considering that a lot of those would essentially be like made in well, like a lot of the scientific ones, sci-fi ones, scientific. A lot of the sci-fi ones were like made or like drawn up around like the '80s, like a big boom in the '80s and whatnot. So, considering like thinking back to like Star Trek and Star Wars, they would advance technology on that realm rather than what we currently got going on now. It's similar to that movie that came out like years ago. Starred that dude from the Chronicle, the main guy from the Chronicle, him and that girl, and it was like it was based off of the bande dessinée. It begins with a V. I cannot remember it, but similar to how that was, where you would look at the technology and you would go, yeah, this is futuristic for a certain time in which they would think of futuristic things. But a lot of what was going on in the creator kind of put you in that same realm of what like Chappie was. If you happen to see that movie, I actually never seen all of that movie, so it felt similar to that in tone and aspect. But because of that, again, you would question exactly what it was that they was developing with the technology, to where it was like, okay, so you're capable of making all of this, yet you got bonehead after bonehead moments going on within this movie that just honestly don't make any sense. A lot of shit happened that was just to push the plot along without making any sense. It was nonsensical, but it was to help push the plot along and to help show you exactly who is the bad guy in this scenario. And it was America. Like it's always America. America decided to go to war with AI because of a nuclear bomb exploding, and then just basically not trusting it anymore and being like, we no longer want to use AI. And because of the destruction that that caused and what that would mean, we're basically forcing everyone else to not use it either. So even though it happens to be majorly used in other places on the world, despite that, America will go to war with AI, not with the other countries. And honestly, a pretty cool setup for what they had going on for the story. But then immediately, once it get into the main characters and what it is that they're doing, it just broke down completely. Having is John David Washington, I believe that's his name. He was just fantastic. I hate, he's such a great actor, and I hate that so many scripts that he's given underutilize him. I felt this way in Tenet, which I actually enjoyed as a movie, but there's just so many movies that he does when it's like, if it wasn't for him, this movie would basically be nothing. It honestly wouldn't even be worth watching. But because of his fucking acting, it elevates it to a whole nother level than what it currently would be at without him. And again, his acting was top notch. And because of that, it's so ridiculous in how much of the rest of the movie kind of transcended with all of its like nonsensical subject matter going on. So you had from the bombing going off and things like that, you had it to where he was actually an undercover operative dealing with a big time AI fighter group that kind of was going against America. And he had a wife, as well as she was pregnant while he was undercover. And so essentially he's in the heart of the group of people who essentially are looking towards or answer to Nirmata, whom is the person that essentially all the AI kind of respect and revere as his god, but is a person that just solely believes that AI is the future and they need to be that way. In which AI themselves all just want to live peacefully and together, while America is just kind of like, yo, wipe them the fuck out. So then you have it to where they initiate a strike team against the little resistance group while he's still undercover without informing him. And in one of the goofiest things possible, he immediately starts like when he thinks the coast is clear, he grabs a radio and then just starts telling everything about himself, revealing everything. This is Sergeant whatever. I'm undercover. What are you guys doing? Abort the mission. Abort the strike team. Abort. I'm this close. And then his wife happens to hear, and it's like, you're one of them. You're a traitor. And it's like, who the fuck wrote this? And it gets ridiculous from there. It just goes downhill from there in terms of ridiculousness. And there's too many instances of just goofy shit happening to where it pushes the plot forward, but it doesn't make any sense within the context of the world that they're in, the technology that they have, or the futuristic aspects that they got going on. Hell, there's a part in the movie where he puts on a spacesuit and then he opens up an airlock and then basically a spaceship plane thing that's supposed to go to a moon base, but instead docks on the weapon that America uses to fight off the resistant AI groups and whatnot. And when he puts on the suit, immediately like the suit is like giving him air. It has like an oxygen tank and shit like that. And then not more than like 5 minutes pass to where he's basically almost out of oxygen. And it's like, what the fuck? And it's like, well, how did you expect anyone to use that and basically be able to survive for a long period of time in the case of an emergency. It seems as if it would have hours upon hours of oxygen to be used, but it just damn near runs out almost immediately. And then upon it slowly running out of oxygen, he's gasping for air as if he's already ran out of oxygen, which again doesn't make any sense because it's like oxygen is low, oxygen levels are low, they're critical. And yet he, and I was like, yeah, what the fuck? Like, that's really goofy. Even scuba divers, when they're about to run out of oxygen, they still can breathe. They're just not going to be able to breathe anymore once it's out. So having that go on in the movie was, again, to try and add in some unnecessary drama to make you feel, oh, for what's going on. But again, it just kind of was pointless because after a while, he just gets into a place, they lock the air, and then it's like, oh, he can breathe now. Yeah, there you go. Goofy shit. But you also have the abundance of the robot that he finds that's a little girl that essentially was an AI robot that was made to where they kind of they keep specifying it to where it's like AI can't make children. And it's like, oh, and that's that? Not really. Why is that a factor that matters? But it's like AI can't have children, and then they make an AI robot that is a child and apparently is capable of growth, which on all accounts seem incredibly dangerous. But then they actually made it to where the child is able to wirelessly access and control all technology. She's just able to turn stuff off and on, control it however she wants, and she essentially was created to destroy the little super weapon that America made. Also, the super weapon was ridiculous because it has like a giant fucking light show whenever it's activating its targeting system. Dude, we don't do that now. So why would you do that in the future? That is so unbelievably stupid. And it's like everyone can see where it is. And then the movie has a hard, has a terrible way of trying to explain like distance, because the thing apparently is like high up in the atmosphere, yet everyone can see when it's getting closer. Yet it's able to like strike and hit massive places all around the world in like a fucking instant. It just all like, again, this movie is so goofy in certain aspects. But going back to the what the little girl robot could do, by having her have this ridiculous, insane ability to where it was used to try and destroy the little American super weapon, you kind of shot yourself in the foot by purposefully putting her in multiple situations where if she just used her power, they would have been able to get away scot-free. Hell, it's like she's able to control all technology. So what is the issue? It had been different. Like, you could have had these stipulations if you made it to where she's able to control technology that was made from a certain time or is connected to using a certain network. Something like that. Stuff that whereas like it's an abundance in this place, but America has long since stopped using it out of fear of AI control. Ergo, the super weapon, despite its technological advancement, was still made during a time in which her abilities would still be able to function and mess it up. They're not aware that it's capable of doing this. But because they're not able to remove it or take it away because it will make the weapon cease functioning and they spend too much money into it, that way you can have it to where, like, yes, her getting on board would be a huge fucking problem. But that way you can have it to where the multitude of different machinery and technology that happens that they come across in the movie that essentially would stop them or become issues or problems that you just wonder, why isn't she doing anything about, would be able to, like, they would be able to explain that aspect rather than her just kind of like forgetting, oh yeah, I got a power, I can control everything. Like, it is so unbelievably stupid. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Use your power. It's like open this door. Use your power. Stop this robot that's attacking you. Use your fucking power. What are you doing? Use your power. But again, ridiculous aspects of this movie. But the movie painstakingly goes out of its way to constantly remind you or to drive home the idea that AI is all good. There is absolutely nothing wrong or bad with AI. Now, generally speaking, there are some cool scenes and shots within the movie because, again, visually, fine. One of my favorite parts is when this robot is running and he's like targeted by a missile or whatever. He sees a bunch of kids and he stops and he goes, don't worry, you'll be fine. And he just turns around and walks back and then just gets shot by the rocket and like keep them out of harm's way. Dope ass scene. But the movie just kind of drives home this factor that AI is just unbelievably perfect. Like, there's nothing wrong with AI developing or doing anything that could harm humanity. Hell, they make it seem as if it existing is a natural progression of humanity. To where it's like, that's just evolution. AI is evolution. No, it isn't. It's a tool. It's a tool used to make human life better. And considering how the movie was so hell bent on having America basically forego it completely, it made sense to where essentially you can have the argument to where we can advance technologically we can advance technology wise without the use of AI, in contrast to people who are advancing with AI. Wouldn't it have been fantastic if you actually shown the difference of that scaling or spectrum within within their technological ingenuity, to where it was like, yes, they have an abundance of AI, so there are certain things that they have in New Asia or wherever it is that they what they claimed was one of the main places where these where AIs was an abundance of and everything. Whereas, like, essentially, their cities have all of this going for it, while in America we have these things that essentially it might process a little bit slower, but it does not require AI usage. So you get that understanding that it's like, well, you don't really need it, so we can understand exactly where it's coming from. And then you have then you have essentially people hating it because of the nuclear explosion, but then the movie kind of just tells you that that was it was the humans who did that. It had nothing to do with AI. They just blamed us. But they need someone to blame, so they just blamed us. And it's like, what? Why would a nuke even be in Los Angeles? And it's like, it's a nuke that blew up in Los Angeles. Why would a nuke even be in Los Angeles? Wouldn't it have made sense to just leave that, let that be ambiguous? So where it's like, yes, there might be some bad AI as well as there's some good AI. Like, that would be a fine way of transitioning or having these elements. But essentially, they made it to where all the AI were just completely good. Solidarity, just, they love people. All they want to do is exist in unity. In unity. They don't want more. They don't want to take away things. They don't think that they know better than humans or anything like that. But again, that actually would have had some type of good concept brought upon it, because otherwise it's like, well, then why is the argument that just AI is evil if they're so submissive towards the identity of working together with humans? Yeah. Like again, it's like, because you failed to actually give that type of concept or to bring up any of that going forward, you kind of just put yourself in this corner where the main character is just definitely confused, even though this seems like something that he would have learned about while he was undercover, rather than now when it's like years later and he's trying to do what he's doing with the little girl AI robot thing. And especially considering that's being told to him by the people whom respected him when they thought he was one of them when he was undercover. Goofy. So goofy. Why are you telling me this now? Why couldn't you tell me this earlier? Goofy. So goofy. But to have all of that going for it, and it's like, yeah, the movie itself is just very much bare bones, predictable, and very stupid in a lot of areas. You just question almost everything that happens. So many times when you sit there, I was sitting there just going, wow, this character's about to die. And lo and behold, that character died. And I was like, wow, this character's about to die. Like, oh, there you go, they died. And there was no fucks given. Like, absolutely none. It just tried too damn hard to make robots perfect, and humans, especially Americans, just the worst. How dare they think that AI is a problem? When it's like, well, all signs point to yes. Also, I find it completely hilarious and ridiculous that Asia would basically keep the progression of AI going on, especially considering that they have one of the most advanced facial recognition technologies going on in their country. And one of the programs I believe that they use to run a bunch of their shit, they named Skynet. Exactly, Skynet from Terminator. Yes, and it's an AI program, and they named it Skynet. And to not have it to where it's like, yeah, people who essentially would be that fucking stupid, would not have something where it's like, yeah, they don't realize that there is somewhat of a manipulation going on the AI part towards the human element. It's just that they trust them because they only wish for unity and equality, and they haven't really done anything that's like outlandish towards the humans that would be like, well, this is actually this is something we didn't expect them to do. But it's like, no, it's just strictly these robots are fucking amazing. That's all they are, is amazing. All they want is just to be loved. They just want a hug. Give them a hug. This movie is crazy. But aside from that, I overall assessment of it, I would say it's a movie that I'm glad I watched in theaters, because considering the special effects and like the explosions as well as like the fights and stuff that was going on, movie theater quality is kind of the best for this. If I had watched this like streaming or on my TV or something like that, I probably wouldn't have stomached a lot of the stuff that went on, or appreciated a lot of the effects and stuff that I seen as much, regardless of the quality or anything like that. Because again, like I said, there's just too much of an element of just like, AI is just perfection and incarnate. And again, you're dealing with Asia, and China having one of the most egregious clings towards AI development currently, and yet by the end of the movie, they literally have these AI robots wearing Tibetan monk clothing, which isn't China, but they are some of the most peaceful and holy people that exist. And they literally got them running around being like, like pray, like hands praising, just clasped together and things like that. And even when the girl uses her power to control anything, she sits in her avatar pose and state to just be one with everything. It's so on the nose stupid. It's hard to stomach it when you like. It'd be hard to stomach it again, and that's another thing I would like to get to. This is a movie that I know for a fact I would never watch again. Have absolutely no reason to watch this movie again whatsoever. This is a one and done kind of movie. It is not something to be appreciated or to think of as like this artistic masterpiece. It is not that. Not that at all. Fine movie to look at, but it is not something that I would like to have in my collection. It's not something I want to see again. And honestly, I felt that you can only, I wouldn't say truly appreciate it, but it would be better appreciated in theaters than it ever would if you was to see it on like on a monitor or home screen or whatever entertainment system you got going on. It just seemed like bigger is better for this kind of movie. And they make that apparent in a lot of moments. Also, it's a part where he's running from an explosion, and it's like a big ass boom with him, but then the little AI robot girl is standing there, and there's like a couple of dust mites that hit her in the face, but she's walking towards the explosion, and she's even closer to it than he is. Goofy ass movie, but that's all I gotta talk about. So, see it if you want to. Not really anything. It's not a horrible movie, not a bad movie. It's just that when you see it, you're gonna be like, all right, that's just fucking goofy, and that's kind of it. But other than that, it's not really anything worth a damn after the fact, and it's just an okay movie to look at. But other than that, it's whatever. So this has been another episode of Fun with Flame. I've been here with Daniel the Flame, and as always, good people. Hope you had fun.